So good morning. My name is Dennis Lange. I am the new battalion chief here up in the Arnold Battalion, Battalion 4. I just started here in at the end of January, beginning of February. So I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of folks out here. It's a big learning curve for me to learn the area. I have fire down here, but now I'm working down here. So it's a great privilege for me to be down here and meet the different folks. So bear with me on some of the technical questions and stuff. Just trying to learn how to get around and learn the area and learn the community and the folks out here. And then we're going to kind of tag team this with Emily and myself. So we've got a few slides for you. So basically in the Arnold Battalion, we have two stations. The one here in Arnold, just west of town, and then Skull Creek out in the SPI property to the south, which is actually in the Tuolumne County, but it's quicker for us to have it on this side. So that's one of the stations that I manage. We have 2 Type 3 engines, and with that we have total personnel, 4 captains, 4 engineers, and 15 firefighters when we're fully staffed. So we're still getting folks in. We just started staffing both engines on the 24th, so we'll have another rehire here in a couple of weeks and fully engaged with what we got going in that battalion.
My truck's still going to be.
So this is just to kind of give you an idea about where we need to get back to. This image was taken not in the Tuolumne Calaveras unit, but in one of the neighboring units, and it is very indicative of what would have been seen as the forest around the turn of the century in 1909. And as you can see, there's not a lot of fuel buildup. It's very easy to walk through. Horses can get through. There's some vegetation that they can dine on, but it's very open. This is almost 40 years later in this exact same location, and as you can see, there's starting to be some ladder fuel buildup, some smaller trees coming in, and things are starting to get crowded, but they could still walk through the forest. And then this is in 1989, so 80 years after the first picture, same location. You can't even see through it. And this is probably what you're familiar with and what a lot of the general public or people that don't live in this environment, this is what they think a healthy forest looks like. But we all know that this is actually creating a problem, not only in forest health, but in our fire management. So what are we going to do to get back to that? This slide kind of shows how all the pieces of the puzzle come together, because whose responsibility is fire management and forest health? Is it just CAL FIRE's? Is it just state parks? Just the Forest Service? Is it just you?
Everyone.
It's everyone. So when we do fuel reduction, CAL FIRE looks at fuel reduction in a large scale.
Excuse me, a little less volume, please.
Oh. Can you hear me without the mic?
No.
How about in the very back? Okay, no. I'm going to go mic free. So CAL FIRE does large-scale fuel reduction projects. When we do our fuel reduction projects, we're looking at areas along ridge tops, highways, and things that we can protect multiple communities with doing the least amount of work and the least amount of money. So we look at long stretches in areas where we're going to protect multiple communities. The federal government, like the Forest Service, BLM, sometimes other federal entities, they kind of do the same thing. They're looking for large-scale fuel reduction projects, the most bang for their buck, where they can protect the most communities with a little bit of work. Counties have the opportunity to apply for federal grants and state grants to do fuel reduction work, and they're kind of similar. They look for multiple community areas, but where you start to break it down is where you see our FireWise communities. How many people here are involved with a FireWise community, or your neighborhood is a FireWise community? Very good. The Highway 4 corridor was one of the initial areas where we saw multiple FireWise communities come together back in the late 80s and early 90s. FireWise communities look at what we call a moderate scale fuel reduction project, And so they're looking at protecting like a single neighborhood. And then there's the fire safe councils where they're looking at protecting a single neighborhood as well. They also go after federal funding and state funding, but you're taking that big fuel reduction project, removing all those ladder fuels to protect a single community or a single neighborhood. Then there's 4291. Are you guys all familiar with Public Resource Code 4291?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about it. That's all right. Public Resource Code 4291 is state-driven. That is your defensible space law. So when your volunteers and preventions through your HOAs or our defensible space inspectors come inspect your property for fuel reduction, that's that 100-foot rule. Public Resource Code 4291 is your private property fuel reduction project. All of these things combined, if everybody takes responsibility, provides for fire safety in the entire area. Maybe? Maybe? Technology at its finest.
Call 911.
No, please do not call 911.
Don't worry, we're gonna fix it.
There you go. Here.
So in the Battalion 4 fuel reduction projects in cooperation with other entities around, in the past, talking with my partner, Big Tree State Park we're working with, which Heather talked about, and the prescribed fire that they're doing there and fuel reduction. We assist with them in collaboration with their folks. Last Chance Fuel Break with the Forest Service, Blue Lake Springs, and then the Timber Harvest Plan with SPI in the Love Creek area that surrounds between SPI and the park. And then the Blue Mountain Lookout, which everybody knows lookouts are going away due to technology and cell phones, but it's still important. During significant weather events, we will staff that lookout and put individuals in there for early detection to help us and the communities out there. So some of the projects that we work with. Oh,
Wrong way.
Oh no, went to the slide it doesn't like to get off of. Oh, there. Oh, yeah,
Like that one.
sure. I know how to get down there.
Lunch break.
We're almost there.
Almost. I think you go.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
So real quick, we'll just talk a little bit about defensible space, hardening your home, and fire resistant landscaping. And there are some short videos and stuff that you can look at online that the CalFire has come up with to help people with a general idea. I don't know, Mike.
It does not like it.
Jeez.
I'm gonna blame it on you.
Okay.
I'm giving it to him first.
I'll do it.
Ooh, this is not good.
That's a horrible slide.
Let me do this.
Anybody got any sunglasses?
Yeah, sorry, that's over to you, Emily.
Yep. Going to. Maybe not. Yeah, it's just you can't read it. It's not liking it. Should have used my computer.
Well, we're working on it. You're welcome to get up and stretch.
She got it.
Okay.
All right. We're probably gonna have to do that with the next slide too. Anyhow, defensible space inspections. We touched on it a little bit. It is required by Public Resource Code 4291. It removes fuels from around your structures, and it is the single most important thing that you can do other than hardening your home to protect your home and also create a safety area. for firefighters if they need to do structure protection should we encounter a large catastrophic fire. We have in the Tuolumne Calaveras unit, we have a team of defensible space inspectors. We have 2 seasonal employees and 2 permanent employees. One of those permanent employees specifically does 4291 inspections under Assembly Bill 38, which says if you're having a real estate transaction, you have to pass 4291 to sell your property. The other way that we get help in this unit, and it's been a model unit for almost 40 years, is the Highway 4 area. We have, statewide, we have volunteers in prevention. They do all kinds of different work for us. But here on Highway 4, we created in the Tuolumne Calaveras unit where we partnered with homeowners associations to have volunteers sign up with CalFire as a volunteer. We train you to do 4291 inspections. You guys actually go out and do the inspections for us, put it into our database. And if we have non-compliant properties, we have the ability to send law enforcement out to do citations. But the primary goal of the VIP program is to educate your neighbors about defensible space and education. It's not to go tattletale. But yes. Yeah. I'll just, you want to talk about this one? You want me to talk about this one? Yeah, let's go here. Of course. So again, VIP program is primarily to educate your fellow neighbors about 4291. There's other opportunities as a volunteer though. I take volunteers to help me with school programs, fairs, parades. If you're tech savvy, you can fix presentations like this for me so I don't come in here looking kind of bad. I have office duty things. I even have a volunteer who is very limited function and he loves working for me. So if you want to explore other options as a volunteer, see me in the back. I'll get you signed up. We tend to put out anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 inspections in the unit. The bulk of those have come off the Highway 4 VIP program in the past. Next. So Zone 0, how many of you are familiar with Zone 0?
It's kind of new.
It's kind of new. So Assembly told CalFire that we are going to make our defensible space zones more robust and we're going to adopt Zone 0. They gave CalFire and the Board of Forestry until January 1st, 2023 to come up with the education portion of what Zone 0 is. And there's still discussion and it hasn't been finally approved by the Board of Forestry and then run through the Assembly on exactly what the terms are going to be included in the 4291 law. So some of what I'm going to show you may change a little bit, but this is kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Very simply said in one sentence, nothing combustible within 5 feet of your house. So earlier, someone was talking about embers and ember collection, and that's going to be the primary thing that impacts your home and your investment. And someone said, well, I don't know how to kind of describe how embers do that. I describe it very easily. When you go out to rake your leaves and do your pine needles, where those are collecting is exactly where embers are going to collect around your home. So those are the areas you want to ensure are going to be hardened, and those are the areas that you're going to want to ensure that you maintain more frequently. 4291 is required year-round. It is not a fire season law. So do that work year-round. In Zone 0, you're going to look at hardscaping things. So You want to use gravel. I know a lot of homes here are on steep slopes. There is going to be some guidance that comes out on how to deal with erosion issues if that is in your zone 0 or zone 1 area. Zone 1 hasn't changed in 4291. You still have to remove all dead and dying vegetation, so pine needles, pine leaves, and sticks. You still have to make sure that your roof is clear, your gutters are clear. You have to have 10 feet of clearance. If you have trees that grow over your home, you need to have at least 10 feet of clearance for branches. And you still have to have 10 feet of clearance around your propane tank. None of that has changed. Zone 0 says to relocate your wood piles outside of the 5-foot zone. Zone 1 also says to relocate it outside into the zone 2 area. Zone 1 covers that 5-foot to 30-foot of clearance around your structures. And then the number one infraction that I see in our unit as far as compliance with 4291 is people using the underneath of their deck as storage. That is not storage. That is not storage. You shouldn't put anything under there. And if you have the opportunity to enclose the underneath of your deck with fire resistant materials from the bottom of the deck all the way down to the ground. So the zone 2 hasn't changed at all either. This is where you can start seeing larger clusters of vegetation, some of that aesthetic appeal. We all moved up to this area at some point, probably because we liked being in nature. So we're not advocating that you have to, make your property denude of any vegetation. This is the area where you get to have it. You want to try to keep your vegetation in clusters of 10 feet in diameter with 10 feet of spacing between it. And then for your trees, you want to do the same thing. You need to have at least 10 feet of spacing between the branches. Not only for fire safety, but when you look at all those ladder fuels, one of the common problems that you're having there is that where the branches are coming together, the roots are also coming together underground. So those trees are competing for the same nutrients in the soil and the same water and the same sunlight. So let's create a healthy forest instead of having that screen because we don't want to see our neighbor anymore, right? Next. And then this slide talks about some additional regulations about horizontal and vertical spacing. All of this information is available at my table in the Wildfire Action Plan booklet. So feel free to stop by, but this teaches you how to adjust for slope. Because a lot of the homes around here are on an incline or, go ahead. Burn permits. How many of you guys knew that your residential dooryard burn permit or any burn permit that we issue is now available online? Perfect. I did my job. I got the information out. Not only is it available online, but you are required to use our online system to request one. The residential dooryard permit, you'll watch a 3-minute video, you'll fill out your burning address, and then it will send you an email with your actual permit in it. You can print it out in a digital copy. Like if you saved a picture of it on your cell phone is also acceptable. That's new this year. The other two kinds of permits that you can get, the general burning one, and this is the one that people are getting confused with. A general burning permit is an LE5 permit. It does require a CalFire person to come inspect your area that you're going to burn. It's typically intended for larger piles and not the individual homeowner that's just burning their small brush. It's usually larger piles, agriculture land, that kind of stuff. The other burn permit is the broadcast burning permit, also available to apply online. That's for prescribed burns. The Prescribed Burn Association is going to give a presentation here pretty quick, and I'll let them talk about what they do. But there is a mechanism being developed kind of statewide and here locally where neighbors can help neighbors do broadcast burning on their property. This is the broadcast burning permit is also what other entities need to apply for in addition to air quality permits to do burning, open burning basically. And all three are available online. The last two, you don't get your permit generated when you apply. You don't get it until it's approved by the CalFire person inspecting. Next slide.
And just one thing on the residential burning, it's a 4x4 pile with your 10-foot clearance with tool, attendance, and water. So just because you think your pile might be a 5x5 and you need to do the other one, you don't need the pile that big. You can still get your permit and then add
Just don't
to
know that I
it
wanna go
with
too
your
far.
clearances to be able to handle that, and then we don't have to come and inspect. So there's a little bit of confusion and education piece that we're gonna push out. For the folks that say, I don't have internet, I don't know how to use a computer, we will help assist if you come to the station and guide you through that process. But this way now it's online and it'll have a record. So from year going forward, you will have that, and then it's just a process and a lot better. If you do have the paper still with you now, we will still accept that, but we want to convert everybody over to the new online process.
Everybody's papers permit should have expired on the 30th.
Yeah. But some are still out there just in case. So just
So
come to
that's
the
another-
station, give a call, and we'll help
Yeah.
guide you through that process.
And that is another change that has been had prior to now. The permits, when you came into the station and you got a handwritten permit, they were valid for 2 years and expired on April 30th. That's no longer the case. You have to apply for a new burn permit every year. Don't do it in advance of May 1st, because if you do it on April 30th, trying to plan for the next year, your permit's gonna expire at midnight and you still have to go back in on May 1st to get one for that burn season. So make sure you do it every year on May 1st or after. So home hardening, I'll touch on this pretty briefly. I have several slides in here, but we're gonna click through them and I'm not gonna cover them. If you have questions about home hardening and the things that you can do, I have several brochures back there. But basically with home hardening is, we don't advocate that you have to completely rebuild your entire home or do a full structure remodel so that you're fire compliant. But when you're doing things, especially a lot of homes up here are aging, when you're doing things like replacing your roof or looking at your gutters or wanting to rebuild your deck, do so with fire resistance in mind. There is materials out there that you can use that are less combustible. I have a full list of low-cost ways that you can harden your home back there. But most importantly, just keep that in mind. I'm not saying you have to go rebuild your entire house, but when you're making those repairs, do it with fire-resistant materials.
And just a couple of little things on the rain gutters and stuff. Try to go for, if you're gonna replace your gutters, is make sure they're clean. If you can put the gutter guards on there, really helps you when everybody's out of the area to help defend that a little better. And the biggest thing I want to push out between us as first responders and my department, ambulance, whatever, is address. To know your numbers on your street. So it might be good on your house, but how many people have long driveways? And if it's not posted at the driveway, it's really hard for us to get there in a timely and efficient manner. If we see your house at 2400 Highway 4 and it's there in big reflective, it's awesome for us. That way there's no question for us to get there. So if you just take that one little bit and put that out there when you guys go home today and go, I think I can do better on my address. It'd be really helpful.
I'll piggyback that a little bit. Not only have it at the main highway or the main road, but if there's additional intersections, because there's multiple driveways leading into your house, put your address at those intersections as well. So like for me, I have to turn down 3 easement roads to get to my house. I have my address posted at every single intersection. And then as far as access is also concerned, our equipment is getting bigger and taller every time we come out with a new model. So make sure that you have at least 12 feet of vertical clearance all the way down your driveway and at least 10 feet wide, and your gates open in towards your property, not out. Because if they open in and we have to make access quickly, we can push on them. But if they open out, then we're not gonna get chains and try to pull it out. We're probably either gonna bypass your home or we have to get in on foot.
Can I just want to let everybody know that those address signs they light up at night and you can get them through the sheriff's department.
The reflective signs, yep.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, my phone number to my office is up here. I also have business cards with my email address. You can get a hold of me at any time. If you're interested in what I call an educational inspection, because you're new to the area and you don't know what 4291 is and you want someone to come tell you about it, I will come to your house as I have availability and do an educational inspection, work through the entire inspection process with you, make recommendations, and then it's up to you to choose which of those recommendations you do.
Great question.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can do questions now, or we can move on with the presentations, and I'll be available in the back. Either way.
All right.
I have a quick
Test.
Oh, we have a question. Quick question.
Yeah, we got a question.
For the grants that CalFire, for the grants that CalFire awards, and they involve private properties, do you come out and inspect and cite homeowners that are part of that grant at all? Or is the grant its own project and your business doesn't involve?
Persons who receive CalFire grants are responsible for reporting back on how that grant funds were used. And sometimes, depending on the grant, there is an evaluation process that goes with that. But there isn't very, if any, single individual private property grants that have been given. They're usually through Firewise communities and clusters of people or nonprofit organizations or larger areas. Does that make sense? So if you have questions about grants, I can kind of help answer those or put you in contact with those that can. Oop.
Hi, we do inspections in our neighborhood, but we don't do the vacant lots. I was wondering, on the vacant lots, I don't see anyone being like held accountable when they have something that's going on. I know that you might find out like other falls, they used to find those people and then maybe even, I don't know if they did that.
Three
They
separate
got
things.
released from the crime and they hired someone to clean that lot.
Okay, so three separate things. Public Resource Code 4291 does not apply to vacant lots that are not improved. So CalFire does not have jurisdiction there. Secondly, individual HOAs have CC&Rs that address private lots, or they don't. And if they don't have enforcement. Third, Ebbetts Pass Fire District has their own vacant lots ordinance, and Joan Lark assists with that. So that wouldn't be CalFire's jurisdiction. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Chief?
Well, I was hoping you'd just handle it for me.
I think I did, but
Yeah, Joe's in the back in wearing a uniform like the one I'm wearing, and she'll be happy to answer those questions for you. And there's a special piece of the local fire ordinance that helps you. Any other questions? We'll have our CalFire partners around to answer things directly on sidewalks. So there's no other questions for them in this setting. We're going to go ahead and move forward with our agenda.